Hello and very warm welcome to all the viewers who are watching my video. Today I am going to start a new section of your syllabus, that is plant physiology. Before going forward, we will discuss what is physiology. Physiology means study of life processes, or we can say the biological processes. Biological processes are those processes which occur inside our body. What is the role of these processes? These life processes or biological processes are necessary for survival of an organism, and these processes shape the capacities of the organism for interacting with its environment. When we talk about the life processes in case of plant, life processes in plants, they are transport, photosynthesis, respiration, reproduction, and many more. So if we consider transport, they transport water, mineral, food across their body, and without their transport they are not able to survive. If we talk about the photosynthesis, they prepare food in the leaves only, in the green part of the plant, and from these part it has to be translocated to other parts of the plant where the food is required. Respiration is necessary to release the energy from the prepared food. Without respiration, the energy will not released and the plant will die. And similarly, reproduction is required for the multiplication of their number. So these without these processes, it is not able to survive on Earth. Okay. Some important persons are related with plant physiology. Just learn the name. Father of plant physiology, Stephen Hales, and father of Indian plant physiology, Sir J.C. Bose. Okay, just learn these names. So now I will start with the first chapter in your syllabus, that is transport in plants. When we talk about transport in plants, the first question is what type of material is transported by the plants? So plant transported what? Water, minerals, food, we can say it organic solute, and phytohormones, or plant growth regulators. Water. If we talk about water, absorbed by the root and transported towards leaves. Similarly, minerals, food synthesized in leaves and translocated towards roots, growing bud, or wherever it is required. Okay, so flow of water is unidirectional. Flow of water is unidirectional from root to leaves. But flow of organic solute is multidirectional. Why? From leaves, it is translocated to roots, growing buds, stem, and all other parts of the plant. So, translocation of food is multidirectional, but transportation of water is unidirectional. Here I use two terms, transportation and translocation. What is the difference between transportation and translocation? Transportation means movement up to short distance. Whereas translocation is movement towards long distances. When we talk about translocation, transportation is a physical process, totally physical process. Translocation is physical as well as biological. Why? Because it involves vascular bundle. What are vascular bundle? Xylem and phloem. Okay, so translocation is completely physical and biological process, but transportation is a complete physical process. So when we talk about water, in case of plant, movement of water, what happened? First of all, water is absorbed by the root. Okay. So when water is absorbed by the root, some physical processes are involved here. These are diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and active transport. These three processes are involved in absorption of water by the roots of the plants. So first of all, we will discuss about these three processes and then we will move with the mechanism of transportation. So let us discuss about the diffusion. What is diffusion? You all know very well. You have read it in your class 6 onwards. Very much time. What is diffusion? Diffusion is a movement of molecules from its higher concentration towards its lower concentration. I talk about molecules. Maybe of either these are of solute or solvent. No matter. Molecules move from its higher concentration toward its lower concentration. It is a very slow, passive and independent process. What does it mean? Slow process. Why it is slow? You all know that the molecules of any substances are not stationary. They are always in a state of motion, that is called Brownian motion. And the molecules use this property of Brownian motion for diffusion across any substances or any distance. So hence we call it is a very slow process. I will discuss it with an example. Let us take a beaker, filled it with water. Now put a drop of ink here. After some time, what will happen? What will happen? The water turns blue. Why? Because the molecules of the ink diffuses throughout the water in the beaker. How? The intermolecular space between the water molecules allow the molecules of the ink to diffuse through it, and they will spread all over the water. Now I said it is a very passive process. Why? Passive means the diffusion of molecule does not require any energy. The movement of molecule is dependent upon itself only. No energy is required. No energy is required for diffusion. Next, I said it is independent process. What does it mean? If I add some sugar molecule in this beaker also, okay, what will happen? Diffusion of ink molecule and diffusion of sugar molecule occur simultaneously. Only effect is that the rate will decrease. The time for diffusion now it increases. It will take more time to diffuse throughout the water, because what happened? Space is limited. The intermolecular space is limited, but number of molecules increases. The sugar molecules are added, the ink molecules are added, so there is a rush of molecule. They will take time to diffuse, but presence of sugar molecule will not affect the diffusion of ink molecule and vice versa. So it is totally an independent process. If we talk about that in biological system where diffusion occur, so exchange of gases exchange of gases occur through diffusion. either in plants or in animals, in living system. That's why this is an important process for biological system. Clear? I have talked about diffusion, which is a physical process. Okay. Now imagine a living system. When we talk about a living system, there is a cell. There is a cell surrounded by a plasma membrane. Here is a nucleus and here are other organelles. So what is the problem? The molecules have to cross this plasma membrane if they want to go inside the cell. Now let us take the structure of the plasma membrane. You have all read that plasma membrane is a lipid bilayer. Okay. These are phospholipid molecules. Their hydrophilic heads facing outwards and their hydrophobic tail facing inwards. So we can say this interior side is completely hydrophobic or water hitting. If we talk about the small molecules, like these tiny molecules, they will cross the membrane easily. They will diffuse. No force is required. Okay. If we talk about lipid soluble molecules, these are lipid soluble molecules. So what will happen? This is hydrophobic in nature. This is lipid soluble molecule. It will attract it towards the lipid bilayer and they will cross the membrane easily by using the phenomenon like dissolve like. They will cross the membrane. But if we talk about the biological system, it is not necessary that all the times the molecules are small or lipid soluble which have to be transported across the membrane. There may be possibility that some molecules are hydrophilic. Okay. Then what will happen? So for water soluble molecules, their transportation is to be facilitated across the membrane. Okay. For their facilitation, what will happen? There are some protein molecules which are inserted in between the lipid bilayer. These protein molecules are so designed that their cavity is made up of hydrophilic proteins. So what will happen? These water soluble molecules easily pass through across the membrane through these protein molecules. These protein molecules are called porins because they develop pore-like structure in the membrane. Okay. And again, this movement is passive because molecule move from its higher concentration towards its lower concentration. Passive movement, or we can say downhill. Again a biological term. Downhill movement means down the concentration gradient. Okay. These porin proteins are very selective for their molecule to be transported. Porins are selective for their molecules to be transported. Because if they are not selective in nature, what will happen? All the molecules will cross the membrane which are required by the cell or not. It is extracellular space. It is cytoplasm. Okay, so that's why these porine molecules are very selective for their molecules to be transported, and because of their selective nature, they are very sensitive for their inhibitors also. Inhibitors are the molecules which structurally resembles with the transported molecule. What will happen? If they resemble with this molecule, this transported molecule, they enter in the tunnel, but stuck here. They will not release inside the cytoplasm, and in this way they block the pathway. Okay. So this I am talking about this facilitated diffusion. What will happen? Facilitated diffusion. It is simply a diffusion, but it is facilitated by the porine molecules. Molecules in plasma membrane. Okay. In biological system, where this facilitated diffusion takes place, it is porins are present in mitochondrial membrane, in chloroplast membrane, and in bacterial cell membrane, and here they will work in transportation of the water soluble molecules across the membrane. I will write it. Porins are present in mitochondrial membrane, chloroplast membrane, and bacterial cell membrane. Or again, water is also transported across the cell membrane. So water channels are formed. These porins are also called channels. You know, water channels. Water channels are made up of 8 different type of aqua proteins. Water channels made up of. So this is all about the facilitated diffusion. Again, there are 3 terms related to facilitated diffusion. What are that? I told you about the plasma membrane structure. Just wait a minute. These are the porin or channel proteins in the plasma membrane. So, with regard to the facilitated diffusion, there are 3 terms or 3 terminologies are used. That is uniport, symport, and antiport. What is uniport? Uni means single, port means transportation. So this is extracellular space again, extracellular space, and this is cytoplasm. So uniport means transport of single molecule either from outside to inside or inside to outside. One at a time, single molecule will be transported across the cell membrane. Okay. What is symport? Sym means together. Port means again transport. Then transportation of two different type of molecules from outside to inside simultaneously. This is called symport. And what is antiport? Transport of two different type of molecules in opposite direction. That means one molecule is transported outside to inside the cell. In the same time, one molecule is transported from inside to outside the cell. This is called antiport. So there are three terms related with the facilitated diffusion: uniport, symport and antiport. Okay, now third situation. Third situation is that I have talked about the transport of water soluble molecule is facilitated, okay, across the membrane. Now what will happen? Condition is, what will happen if a molecule is transported from outside of the cell to inside, even if the concentration of that molecule is higher inside the cell? A big question. Sometimes it may be compulsory for the molecule to be transported inside the cell even if the concentration of the molecule inside the cell is higher than outside. Again, I am drawing the plasma membrane structure. This is a protein, channel protein you can say right now. Here the concentration of molecule is very high. I'm not saying it is water soluble molecule, okay? It may be water soluble, it may not. Okay? Here the concentration is higher. Here concentration is low. This is outside of the cell. This is inside of the cell. Even if this molecule has to be transported across the membrane. So imagine a condition, you have to throw a ball in upward direction. So what will happen? You have to force it. You have to kick it in upward direction. Otherwise it will not go up. Okay. Means you have to put an energy in the system to move the molecule against the flow. Okay. If you want to drop down the ball, there is no need of energy to there is no energy required in downward movement of the ball, but in upward movement you have to put an energy. Similarly, in biological system, when we have to push a molecule against, we can call it here the movement of molecule against the concentration gradient. Here the concentration is high, here is lower, there is a concentration gradient. I have to push the molecule against the concentration gradient. So we have to put the energy in the system, the energy in the form of ATP. Means this molecule required energy for their transportation in the form of ATP. ATP is required here, and then only this molecule will go across the membrane. This is called active transport. Active transport. What is the definition of active transport? Movement of molecule across the membrane at the expense of energy ATP. Here in this case ATP. Movement is uphill against the concentration gradient. Okay. Again, here we required some protein molecules which transported the molecule against their concentration gradient. Protein molecules involved in this process are called what? Transporters. Transporters. Okay. These transporters are selective and sensitive. Sensitive for their inhibitors and selective for their molecule to be transported. Okay, it is simple process just like facilitated diffusion, but here the transport takes place against the concentration gradient or uphill movement. Simple. So I hope कि आप लोगों को समझ आया होगा. Last, I will summarize 3 processes which we have discussed today in the form of a table. Just have a look. I have discussed about simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and active transport. We will compare all these 3 processes with regard to some properties. The first one is requirement of membrane. If we talk about simple diffusion, no requirement. In case of facilitated diffusion, there is requirement of membrane, and in active transport as well. Second property is highly selective. If we talk about simple diffusion, no. In case of facilitated diffusion, yes, the process is highly selective, and as well as in case of active transport. Next is transport saturate. Transport saturate. It means when all the transporter proteins or porine proteins are saturated with their molecule, which has to be transported across the membrane, then the transportation rate reach to the maximum. Okay. In simple diffusion, no transport proteins are involved here, so no saturation occur. But in case of facilitated diffusion and active transport saturates occur. Next is uphill transport. Uphill transport occur only in case of active transport. In case of simple diffusion and facilitated diffusion, no uphill movement occurs. And the last property is requires ATP energy. Again, it is required in case of active transport. In case of facilitated diffusion, no energy is required. In case of simple diffusion, no energy is required. So today we have discussed about 3 processes: simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and active transport. I hope you all will understand the process for today. It is all done for today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep staying studying. Goodbye.